Good afternoon. My name is Eileen Lasher, and I'm from San Diego, California. I'm here because of the family court corruption that is rampant in San Diego family court. My family law case has been held hostage since 1995. Initially, I lost custody of my children through parental alienation syndrome, and I did not see my children for 6 years. But my story is unique because I do have a happy ending. My children, when they were minors, they actually removed themselves from their father's care and custody after an assault that occurred on May 12, 2007. Since that time, I actually received training through Citibank, and I am currently a financial compliance representative for an investment firm. And through that training, I discovered that San Diego Family Court is nothing more than a boiler room. And what initially happens is the attorneys will skip trace the litigants, determine the assets, speak with the opposing attorney, and determine how much money can be looted from litigating. Similar to the movie Boiler Room, there's churning going on, there's collusion going on, there's large sums of money being moved from one place to another without any proper accounting. So I do want to bring to everyone's attention that initially when I went into family court, I saw a film and I was told that I would be divorced in 6 months and I would have close continuous contact with both of my children. Of course, none of that happened, but most recently I met with a group after Dr. Imad Tadros discovered false credentials for Dr. Doyne. I was invited to a meeting, and there were 50 litigants of San Diego Family Court present, and they all had the same story as mine, and they all had the same attorneys. So I actually requested a meeting with Michael Roddy, who is the CEO of San Diego Family Court. So he basically is the chief financial officer of Family Court. So my daughter and I, my daughter was actually represented by a court-appointed minors counsel who did not represent the interests of her clients, but simply her own financial interests. My children repeatedly requested to be with me, so I figured my daughter and I would go to visit Michael Roddy and bring to his attention that there's an organized crime ring, essentially racketeering, going on in San Diego Family Court. Michael Roddy was very friendly. He shook our hands, and my daughter actually explained that her minors counsel, who was being paid by the San Diego County taxpayers, did not protect her. And she wanted his assistance. Michael Roddy explained to us that his role was simply to keep the lights on. He thanked us for coming in, and after the meeting, we were actually escorted out by sheriffs, and I was taken to a debt examination in a courtroom that was all prepped just for me, without any notice, and we were locked in a courtroom. And I do want to point out at this point that the state of California is broke, and we were escorted by 6 police officers, and at that time my daughter was 8 months pregnant, and she was pushed up against the wall by a sheriff's deputy. The Judge Hoffman, repeatedly instructed me to come up and submit to any questions that the attorney had for me. I explained to him that I was simply here to meet with Michael Roddy, to bring to his attention that San Diego Family Court is a haven for waste and corruption, that I had just recently met with 50 other litigants whose cases are being churned simply for money, and the best interest of the children is not considered at all. He repeated over and over that I would need to come up and answer all of the questions. I then said, I'm on my lunch hour. I've simply come to see Michael Roddy because I've been unable to secure child support for my minor children. I then began to have trouble breathing, so I called 911. I reported to 911 that I was having trouble breathing. The sheriff then spoke into his radio and indicated that he didn't want 911 to send an ambulance, that he would administer CPR if necessary. Judge Hoffman then started laughing, and then he said they would give me a continuance on the debt examination, of which I received no proper notice for. So we were then released from the courtroom. It was at that point that I realized that I definitely had hit a nerve, and I'm thinking that Michael Roddy is completely unaware that there is racketeering ongoing in San Diego Family Court. I then discovered that he is actually responsible for making sure that the forms FL 326 and FL 327 are attached to each case, which address, the proper evaluation and also the accounting for the large amounts of money that are being seized by unsuspecting litigants. So at this point, with my experience now with financial investments, of which I have to explain to investors the risk involved, I would hope at the very least that the administrative office of the court would require that the attorneys involved have to warn the litigants and advise them that the sole purpose of San Diego Family Court is to initially skip trace litigants, determine how much assets that they have, determine their family's assets, and simply use their family law case for churning, deceiving the court record, and colluding with the opposing attorney to simply seize your assets without any due process and any proper accounting. Middle-class litigants are being used simply for their assets. The best interest of your children have nothing to do with San Diego Family Court. Currently, I have reported to Damon Mosler, who heads the fraud division of the San Diego District Attorney's Office, to look into these so-called high conflict cases that are remaining stagnant in the San Diego Family Court for an excessive period of time. It is my understanding that family law cases are on the fast track in San Diego, and they should be resolved anywhere from 6 months to 6 years. What's happening is the litigants are being held hostage for 10 to 15 years. The unusual component of this is Michael Roddy should be accurately reporting the large numbers of high conflict cases that are being held hostage for excessive periods of time. Simply being looted, and it is a trend. And the way I can describe it is, if a certain area in the country has an increase in a certain type of cancer, typically it generates an examination. But this trend of having these high conflict cases that litigate for excessive periods of time and earn numerous revenue streams. This isn't just the attorneys that are involved. These are the psychological evaluators. These are the special masters. These are the court-appointed minors counsels. Numerous revenue streams are created from one family law case, and no housekeeping issues are addressed. You're simply in the system for way too long, and this trend, this pattern of misconduct should be coming up on someone's radar. But it is my belief that Michael Roddy is not accurately reporting the large numbers of cases that are leaving litigants completely bankrupt. These litigants are middle-class working litigants who do not have risk capital. They have maybe some college fund put away for their children, and they may have a little bit of savings, and they have a pension. This is all discovered through skip tracing by the attorneys. And what the attorneys are doing is they're taking the litigants' homes, they're taking the college funds of the children, they're taking their pensions, and they're milking these litigants and basically turning them into citizens that they've lost their jobs, they've lost their homes, they've lost their children to the system that just wants their money. So racketeering is rampant in San Diego, and I understand that most people want to present it like a he said, she said, my husband did this, my wife did this. Separate from that, if they simply look at the amount of volumes that these cases are creating, the litigant is being drowned in the volumes, drowned in attorney bills. And similar to if someone gets a high water bill, they look at the high water bill. I worked for the city of San Diego for 18 years. If someone gets a high water bill, it deploys a mechanism that creates an investigation from the water department. For some reason, there is no mechanism that is being deployed to look at the alarming numbers of attorneys that are earning way too much money from just a middle-class person. And then when you have low-income people that are in and out of the system in less than 6 months because they don't have any assets to loot. This is a certain demographic that is being targeted, and there's a pattern that can be monitored. It's the same attorneys, the same evaluators that are colluding and taking full financial advantage of someone that is not even being warned of the risks. At the very least, I would ask that they would be required to let the litigant know that once they walk into those family court doors, their assets will be seized without any type of due process. And these attorneys, these evaluators, the special masters, the court-appointed minors' counsels are conducting illegal businesses right in your family court. So our belief system is that we believe we're going to get due process, and that is not what's happening. So currently in San Diego, I do have 5 other litigants that have Dave Schulman involved in their particular case. Dave Schulman happens to be a family law attorney. He serves as a judge pro tem in the Department of Child Support Services. He also works in probate court, and he just, he has his own firm. I also want to point out that Teresa Erickson most recently was prosecuted for running a baby selling ring in San Diego probate court for 6 years. And it was not any local agency in San Diego that discovered her baby selling ring. It was an attorney in Los Angeles that simply looked at the large number of probate cases coming out of San Diego. So when you have a trend similar to even Medi-Cal, when there are doctors that are just doing cataract operations over and over and over again, it stimulates an investigation immediately. So the probate cases were so large in number that an attorney in Los Angeles contacted the San Diego FBI. So Damon Mosler, who is the fraud investigator in the San Diego District Attorney's Office, worked with the U.S. Attorney's Office, specifically Jason Forge, and they saw the large amount of numbers, and what Teresa Erickson was doing was falsifying documentation. There should be the same examination going on right now in San Diego. The high conflict cases should be deploying some sort of investigation because too many families are losing everything they have to line the pockets of attorneys like Dave Schulman and Bill Blatchley and court-appointed evaluators that have false credentials like Dr. Doyne, Dr. David Green, Dr. Louise Green, and they are latching on to litigants and milking them and causing suffering for the children who are then unable to even go to college because there's no money left. So I thank you for listening, and at the very least, if I could just warn people not to go into family court, or if you do not hire an attorney. Thank you very much.